Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Texting the Present and Future of Patient Care, sponsored by Podium. I'm Gabrielle Mason for Becker's Hospital Review. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation, and we'll have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. We look forward to hearing your questions. Today's session is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording. It's my pleasure to introduce today's presenters. Josh Comby is the Regional Director of Sales and Healthcare at Podium. Josh comes from a customer experience and sales background working in the healthcare field. He currently oversees one of Podium's healthcare teams working with small to medium-sized businesses. Haley Sontag is the marketing specialist at Podium. Haley has worked in many areas of marketing at Podium. She mainly focuses on driving demand through industry-specific publications and advertising. Haley received her BS from Brigham Young University in marketing. At this time, I'm pleased to turn the floor over to Haley to begin the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Gabrielle. We're really excited to be here today and talk about or give this presentation about texting and how the patient journey has kind of changed in the past several years, and especially in the past several months. A lot of things have changed, as many of you may know, and we'll kind of delve into that. But just like Gabrielle said, my name is Haley. I'm the marketing specialist here, and I'm joined by Josh. He's the head of healthcare sales, and he has a lot of expertise working with all of healthcare and specifically dentists. So we're really excited to hear from him and get his insights. Kind of before we start, I have just a quick announcement. Obviously, everyone knows that a lot has changed with local businesses, with dentists, and we're going to be talking a lot about texting and messaging with patients. And we're really excited to announce that everyone who attends this webinar will actually get free access to try out Podium's tools. Podium is an interaction management platform, and where everyone will get a confirmation email in the next day or so to sign up for that. But we're really excited to announce that, and we'll give you more details kind of throughout. But just wanted to start us off with that. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Josh to start our presentation. Can you hear us, Josh?
Thanks, Haley. Yes, thank you. So, and that's a pretty cool offering. It's a Podium Starter. So definitely look for that email after this webinar. I think we'll, like Haley mentioned, we'll get it out today or tomorrow for you. Give you access to Podium's features at no cost for the starter package. So I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about adjusting to the new normal. I know it's been just talking with practices and, across all different verticals. The last few months has been crazy, to sum it up. It's been a huge change for a lot of businesses having to adapt to the new norm. And for some businesses, for urgent cares, for other types of facilities, it's been busier than ever and trying to keep up with that new pace, of patient volume and trying to adjust to that. And then for other practices, they've had to adapt to trying to figure out when they can reopen, closing their doors. And so it's been a big adjustment, and we wanted to walk through some tips and tricks, some things we that have helped businesses, we've seen help businesses during this time, and hopefully some takeaways that'll help for your business. So during this shift, one of the things that we've actually seen at Podium is we've seen a huge uptick in our usage of our product, which is primarily a text-based tool. It's interesting. So consumers overall, the preference is about 90% of consumers want to have the ability to interact via message. That's their preferred form of interaction, is text or SMS. Also, whether it's coming through like Facebook Messenger or Apple Business Chat, 90% of consumers nowadays, they prefer to start communication that way, right? And we'll actually talk about how that trend has continued into the business as well, and how that's affected businesses. So if we jump to this next slide, patient experience. Here's a quote by Walker Consulting that just talks about patient experience, and I feel like this has been accelerated due to COVID, but patient experience will overtake price and product as a key brand differentiator by year 2020. We've had a ton of change already in 2020, but this for sure is one that's happened and that people are seeing. It's not as much the small things like having a coffee maker per se in your office, or the small amenities. People really are looking for that patient experience, and whether that is making sure the patients feel safe, the area is cleaned before every single patient comes in, showing that online, right? Patients really are paying attention to that, and they're willing to pay for that difference right now for businesses.
And one thing I want to point out with this quote is Walker Consulting, they conducted a lot of research, and this was one of the main insights that they got from their research. But if you think about it, this quote was given before 2020. This quote was given before Walker Consulting knew that there was going to be a global pandemic. Even before COVID-19, patients were valuing the experience more than price and product leading up to this. But what does that really look like? We want to kind of focus on 3 different aspects of the patient journey throughout this presentation. So those 3 things are convenient, frictionless, and efficient. You really want to make sure that your patient experiences are convenient, that they're frictionless, that they are efficient. And we'll talk about several ways that you can do that. But just some examples would be, making it convenient for them to find you online. And once they find you, making the transition to them actually contacting you frictionless. And then making the entire process efficient. But kind of as we're going through too, we want you to focus on these 3 things for your patient, but also for your practice. We know that you're busy, time is money, and so we want to make sure that increasing or making the patient experience better is also going to optimize the time that you have and not just add more to your plate. We want to focus kind of on the past, 100 years with the behavior that has changed, specifically in regards to how people find businesses and how they communicate with them or with each other. If you think about it, humans have gone from snail mail and telegrams to phone and email to all of these messaging platforms to voice communication. There's been all of these different channels that have opened up. And because of that, it's going to change their behavior. They're going to find you. Even the change has been from your computer online to now it's their phone. If somebody moves to a new area and they need a new dentist, what are they going to do? The majority of people are going to pull out that pocket-sized computer and search for dentists near me. And then they're going to want to connect with that dentist right there. So we want to make it easy for them to find you, to connect with you, and we want to make sure we're helping your practice adapt to these changing behaviors.
Yeah, 100%, Haley. And I know I'm this way. I think most people are, but it's just so convenient and easy to grab your phone and to look it up real time, right? So we live in a convenience economy. People expect that real time, that real time ability to look that up. I know it's crazy. Like if internet's slow or I can't get something to work on my phone, it's almost like it's frustrating almost to the extent where if you can't get something real time. And that's just the expectation that potential patients, future patients, and your current patients have, right? Is they want stuff real time. And so this slide that we have up here just talks about the patient journey, the journey within a practice and how that's adapted and changed over the years. And it has changed quite a bit. I use the phrase, the front door for businesses is no longer the front door. And what I mean by that is people are finding your business way before they walk through that front door of your business, right? They're finding you through online channels, whether it's Google, Facebook, Instagram, right? Social media sites, looking you up after getting a referral from a friend. So that pre-appointment starts much earlier, much before they walk through your door and make that initial purchase, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about this patient journey and some tips and tricks on how to help with this in your practice. If I jump to this next slide, here are 4 ways to help critical patient touch points within your practices, within your business. And so I'm going to jump to the first one here. And the first one is focusing on the online experience as a business. Now, what we mean by that is this is where, if you look at that journey, right, so that graph I showed earlier, and again, your front door is not your front door. So people are finding you online initially before they get into your practice. So having a smooth, easy transition from finding you to your website is going to be critical. I'll just read this stat. So 89% of customers begin their buying process with a search engine. That's huge. So, I mean, basically 9 out of 10 of your customers that are coming into your business, into your practice, are initially finding you through a search engine. And my gut tells me the majority of the time that's probably like Google, Facebook, or some of those other big social sites out there, right? So having a good presence there would really help with your business. Again, it goes back to if someone's new to the area, if someone's even getting a referral, or they're just looking for the best practice in their area. Maybe they're looking for a change, a new doctor to see, a new dentist to go to. The first spot they're going, majority of the time, is going to be online. So what are some of the steps you can take to help with this? And we'll jump to that right here.
So we want to take a second and talk about specifically what you can do right now and what patients are looking for during COVID-19. So like Josh said, your online presence and your Google My Business listing, your website, that's your quote-unquote front door. That's what patients are seeing first, and that's their first impression of your practice. And also, when they're searching for you online or searching for a dentist online, they're looking for information, especially right now. There's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world. A lot of businesses and practices are closed. A lot of things have changed. So this tip we have here, these few steps are really important, especially right now, is give patients the information that they're looking for. When they look you up on Google, make sure that the information that they want and need is front and center. Tell them what's open, if you're open, if the hours have changed, restrictions on capacity, whatever it is, make sure that they can see it there. Let them know how it's different. If they're a returning patient, they still might look you up on Google because so much has changed that they want to know if you're open. They want to know when they can schedule appointments. They want to know how their experience is going to be different. Maybe you have changed the waiting room. So instead of them coming in and checking in and waiting in the front room, they wait in their cars, and you have a virtual waiting room, and you can text them or call them when when you're ready for them to come in. How is social distancing being encouraged? With all the uncertainty going on, make sure that you take the uncertainty out of their experience at your office to calm their fears and their anxieties about visiting your office. So those are just a few tips. Make sure you're giving them the information that they need. But one other thing that we really want to emphasize here with your online presence is your reviews. Reviews say so much about your business, especially if somebody is a new potential patient. They're going to look online, look at your information, and then they're going to look at what people are saying about your practice. You can see some of the stats we have here are pretty compelling. I actually want to bring your attention over to this last one. We think about reviews, and sometimes it's common for businesses to focus on the star rating, which that is very important, but Google actually takes into account 4 things in regards to reviews. The first is quality, so that includes your star rating. But Google also looks at the quantity, the frequency, and the recency of your reviews. So this stat here says 85% of consumers feel that reviews older than 3 months are not relevant. Look your practice up on Google. When's your most recent review? How many reviews do you have? What's your star rating? How frequently are they coming in? Not only does this matter to the consumers looking at your business, but it matters to Google. Google will factor in all 4 of those things to help determine ranking. Nobody really knows what and how much Google's algorithm takes into account when determining ranking, but we do know that reviews and those 4 aspects of reviews play a huge role in determining ranking specifically for local search. Local search is when somebody searches for dentist near me or dentist in Salt Lake City, Utah. When they include that location marker, it's going to bring up local businesses that are nearby, and reviews play a huge part in determining where your practice shows up on that list. Obviously, being number 1 is going to be the best spot because that's where the majority of people are going to look first. And the best way to ensure that you're getting reviews on a consistent basis to help build those 4 areas, quality, quantity, recency, and frequency, is to make sure that you're asking every patient for a review and then making it really, really easy for them to do it. A lot of times it may seem that the few unhappy patients are the ones that are actually leaving reviews online, but you want to make it easy for all patients to leave reviews so that the happy silent majority of your patients can help paint an accurate picture online of the service that you provide. We know that you are providing great service, especially if you're on this webinar. Obviously, you care about your patients and their experience. So we know you're offering great service. You want to make sure that that's what's showing up online. And one of the main ways to do that is by sending a link to the review site through messaging. The title of this is Texting the Present and Future of Patient Care. So we're going to talk kind of the rest of the presentation about messaging, but we really wanted to set this up that your online presence is where people are going to start. The journey can't start if they can't find you. We have a couple more stats here about the impact of your online reputation that it has on your practice. Like I was saying, the whole journey starts with people finding you. So once they find you, here are some stats, and this is an aggregate of all of Podium customers as of September 2019 that's connected to Google My Business. If you want more information on the sources here, we are happy to send that over to you. But when somebody improved their reputation online, there was an 85.3% increase to clicks to call, 67.1% increase to website visits, and 52.6% increase to listing views. The point of all of these numbers is that when somebody finds you online, when your reputation is better, when it's easier for them to find you, they're going to connect with you. They're going to call you or go to your website, and they're seeing you online. And that's the whole point. It's fine and dandy if somebody can find you online, but if they can't connect with you, then their journey ends. So that brings us to tip number 2 we have here is open and communicate in their preferred channels. And Josh is kind of going to take us through what those channels entail.
Thanks, Haley. Yeah, and just to reemphasize on the reviews piece too, like that data was pulled as an aggregate of Podium customers, and so it's really cool to see the increase in local search, in SEO and clicks, people actually going to your website by increasing your reputation online. The one thing I wanted to mention just really quick regarding that too is a good part of you probably know Google, when COVID hit, they came out and put a pause on posting any new reviews to give businesses kind of just a chance to breathe before having to deal with some of that. And those are back up and running if anyone was wondering. So Google is currently posting reviews again for healthcare type businesses. And the thing that you'll find with reviews, like the increase on clicks to your Google page, the increase in clicks to your website, that is great. Like that's definitely going to help your business. But I think there's one piece that also isn't seen as much a lot of times, and that's the content that's posted in your reviews. So if you're taking steps to be extra cautious and clean after every single visit to make customers feel safe and secure during this time, that if you can get some of your patients to post that in a review form, that content in a review, that is huge. And that really helps when patients are scrolling through recent reviews to see what's happening, what the experience has been like for patients with the current situation, right? So just some thoughts around that as well. So to jump into this, again, preferred channels that patients are using now. Obviously, phone is huge, right? I mean, I don't think a business, any sort of a healthcare business could live without a phone per se. Like having a phone in your business is huge and it's critical. The other piece to that is if you can have a number that's textable, if you can have a way to text with your patients and connect with your patients on some of the social channels that are important, those two methods can be very, very helpful for your business overall. And then the third thing we have listed on here is video chat and voice chat. And it's no surprise that telehealth, any form of telecommunication has increased significantly over the past couple months. So giving your patients the ability to not only talk to you, but be able to chat with you live and to see you face to face, it's been great for a lot of businesses we work with to still have that personal touch and feel that they want to have with their patients, and you can do that over a video chat, right? So a few things to touch on there. We had mentioned a similar statistic earlier about the 90%. And so the 90% statistic, that's referring to just in general, consumers in general prefer to text. 90% of consumers in general prefer to text. Now, this study done by Sentiment Decision Science and Facebook was done back in 2018. It found that almost 2/3 of consumers also prefer to text with businesses that they associate with. So that just goes to show that not 100% translates, but pretty close, right? 2/3 of consumers would prefer to text a business over other methods. So that's definitely something to stay on top of and be aware of as a business. I wanted to jump through this really quick. So efficiently convert website traffic into patients. If we're going back to the patient journey and when people are finding you online, if you do have the reviews, if you are standing out from the crowd, maybe someone read a review and they wanted to go further, they're most likely the next step is clicking on your website. So something we found really helpful for businesses is when they get to that point, they're clicking on your site. How does that look for them? What's the next step? Is it a frictionless experience for the patients to connect with your business at that point? So having a good and easy way to communicate with those patients, having a web chat type tool has been really helpful for a lot of the businesses that Podium has worked with. And it gives people the ability to start initiating that text message conversation with you right from your site. So that's something I would recommend is if you feel like you're doing well in the review space, you're standing out from the crowd, what is the next step? How are people now, when they get to your website, how are they converting into actual patients for your practice, right? Are they calling you majority of the time? Are they filling out a form? Or is there an easier way that they can connect, like a text? So Haley's going to help cover this third one here. Build a relationship with your patients.
Yeah, I love talking with local businesses about building relationships with their patients and customers, because that's what local businesses are incredible at. A lot of times when we're talking about marketing and making a patient journey convenient, we may bring up companies like Uber or Netflix or Amazon, these huge giant companies that have revolutionized a lot of customer expectations because of the convenience that they offer. And these companies, they can do a lot of amazing things with their revenue and their infrastructure. But one thing that local businesses will always be able to do really well and have this advantage is because they can create a one-on-one experience and a personalized experience with each of their patients, because they are communicating with them more on a one-on-one basis and they're seeing them in person. And it may seem like it's a little bit harder to do that when practices are closed or they're just starting to reopen. Maybe foot traffic is still a little bit low, even though doors have opened. But that doesn't mean that you have to stop building a relationship with your patients. A lot of this can be done over messaging, and that's one of the biggest benefits I think of messaging, is that you can use it to schedule and confirm appointments. You can use it to answer questions and resolve concerns. You can use it to send review invitations. You can use it to follow up with patients. Maybe they had a toothache and they had a cavity filled and you wanted to check up and see how it was going. You can do that all through messaging. A lot of it can be automated through different systems, but messaging is a great way to continue that relationship with patients and help build their loyalty. Once they come to you, you want to make sure you build that relationship so they want to come back. That can help keep you top of mind as well. And as we've talked about messaging, it could seem possibly overwhelming to open all of these different channels. Josh mentioned a few of them: texting, SMS, Facebook Messenger, Apple Business Chat, Google Business Chat, your website. There's a lot of different channels that consumers could possibly prefer to communicate with or through. And you want to make sure you open those and give those customers and patients a chance to connect with you. But we want to also make it easy for your business. So this is going back to those three things we talked about at the beginning: making the patient journey convenient, frictionless, and efficient. And we want to do that for your business as well. So technology has changed the patient journey for your patients. Your practice can also be leveraging technology to keep up with those preferences. And one way to do that is finding a way to aggregate all of these messages and all of these channels into one easy-to-use inbox, because it can get overwhelming to log into Facebook to check messages there, to log into Google My Business to check messages there, to check them on your website, to check them on maybe you have an office phone. But bringing them into one place can really help you manage all of those and keep responding on their preferred channel. And just a reminder, everyone who's attending this webinar will have free access to try out Podium's tools. This is one area that Podium specializes in. This is kind of our our bread and butter. But whether you choose Podium or something else, we highly recommend finding some software that can help you manage all of these to make it convenient for both you and for your customers. Our last tip here is collect payments via text or app. We wanted to focus on this specific benefit of messaging because it's really relevant right now with COVID-19. A lot of times people are weary of physical touch. So the act of handing over a card, whether it's a credit card, an HSA card, insurance card, that can be a little bit unsettling, that physical touch and that physical closeness. So a huge benefit of messaging is you can collect payments via text or app. And Josh has worked with a lot of dentists that have utilized this. And so he's going to kind of take us through the benefits of this and how it looks specifically for a dental practice.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Haley. And just to clarify too, so payments, so everyone on here is aware, it's also included in our starter package. You have access to payments and to be able to help collect these via text with your patients. But some of what we found is that if you're having to collect any form of payment over the phone, or you're doing calls to collect payments, this option can be really helpful for the practice, right? Now, it probably won't replace your swipe at terminal transactions. It might in the meantime with COVID, right, to help create some more distance there and give people that peace of mind with the social distancing. But the nice thing with this is it helps fill in some of the gaps for practices where they've had hard times collecting on, overdue balances or additional balances after insurances has gone through. And so this is a really good tool to help with those aspects. And it's extremely simple and easy to do. So it goes out via text, gives the person on the other end the ability to pay with a couple clicks. We have Apple Pay as an option on here. My wife makes fun of me. There's a grocery store that's probably an extra 3-minute drive from my house from this other one, and I go just because I can use my Apple Pay every time, and it's super streamlined and easy. But it's funny how patients are that way as well, and just consumers. They really do crave just that ability to do it with ease, right? And so that's what this has given people, is that ability to make a payment to your business, to your practice with a couple clicks. Really simple and easy to do there. And so again, this is part of Podium Starter. We'll be sending out that link for everyone. But whether you use it through Podium or another source, having the ability to collect a payment from someone without having to have them right there at the terminal can be very, very helpful, especially right now during these times. So one of the last things I want to touch on too, so becoming a trusted contact in their phone. If you have a landline in the business that is not currently textable, that is another thing that can really help to change your business, right? So if someone already has your number saved in their phone, if they already have your contacts, if you can turn that number into a textable line, it now is giving you that ability for your patients to connect with you directly through that. So that's something, if you have questions on, we can talk to you about that as well. And I do believe that's also a feature that we can help with Starter. So if you're looking to have that connected. Now to finish up here, I wanted to jump back to this patient journey we talked about earlier, and just to wrap things up, right? So we talked about the patient journey, creating this frictionless patient journey. And if you look at kind of pre-appointment to post-appointment, there are multiple areas where having a messaging tool or having a good texting tool can come into play here, right? During that pre-appointment, whether it's someone chatting with you through Facebook, through your social channels, Google My Business, through a text message or a web chat on your website, all that can happen pre-appointment, all the way up to the purchase. And then post-appointment, you could have reminders, recalls in the mix with this as well, right? So I'm sure all of us have utilized or had text messages for reminders on our appointments that we have, and it's I know for myself personally, it's super helpful to not forget that, right, coming up. And so that, for the most part, wraps up our conversation today. So just to do a quick recap here, we'll run through some of these touch points again for you.
Yeah, number one, focus on the online experience. Make sure that patients can find you online. And then once they find you, make sure that you're opening and communicating in their preferred channels so that it helps move them along their journey. Number three, build a relationship with patients. We know that you're already really good at this, so when things are slower, you can utilize messaging to continue to build relationships and answer questions, resolve concerns through messaging. And then number four, collect payments via text or app, or find some non-touch way to collect payments to make people feel more comfortable. We hope that these tips have helped. If you have any questions, or if we don't get to your question today, feel free to reach out to us at any of the ways on your screen, or if you try any of these tips and they work for your business, reach out to us. We would love to hear that. Podium works with over 55,000 businesses, so we would love to hear what you're doing to adapt to COVID-19, and also when things go back to quote unquote normal, how you're adapting and how things have changed, if these have worked. If you have questions, we want you to use this as a resource. Again, as a reminder, you should get an email. All attendees should get an email today or tomorrow to confirm your Podium Starter account, where you can have free access to these tools that we talked about. Try them out, see if they work for your business. Feel free to reach out to us if you don't get that email and you would like to sign up for free. You can reach out to us and we'll make sure to get you started. And thank you everyone for joining. With that, we're going to turn it back over to Gabrielle to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Josh and Haley, for that fantastic discussion. We will now begin today's question and answer session. So please submit any questions you have by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your dashboard. We will try to get through as many questions as we have time for. So our first question is this certified HIPAA compliant?
Perfect, and I can jump in to help with that one, Haley. So Podium, there's actually, and we didn't touch on this in the presentation, but Podium has two forms. We have general text, and then we also have the ability to start a secure conversation with any of your patients that will take them into a secure portal, 100% HIPAA compliant. So it depends on how you want to reach out, right? My recommendation is, if it's a quick, hey, what are your hours? Can I schedule an appointment? Quick questions, maybe they just jumped on your website, that can start or be initiated via text. And you can jump into that secure portal at any point during that conversation.
Great, thank you so much. How do we go about setting up messaging for our practice?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. That's another great question. Again, Podium offers this service, and we're probably a little bit biased, but Podium has a lot of features, and we've helped a lot of businesses and practices with this. So if you want to set up business or set up messaging for your practice, look for that email to start or to set up your Podium Starter account. If you want to just get started, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to give you a personalized demo to see if Podium works for your business. But Podium obviously is a great way to start messaging for your business.
Thanks, Haley. Another question we have is, what kind of privacy concerns do you have with more and more healthcare organizations turning to texting to correspond with patients? How can we make sure that information provided is secure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a big part of that too is the company you're working with. How is their data stored? What types of steps have they taken to make sure the data is encrypted and stored in a secure form? Podium, we actually have right on our website a privacy section that talks about the steps we've taken to help with that, right? Give you peace of mind there. The secure portal is also a way to help give you that more of a secure type of chat versus just a text, right? I know that's something that we get asked quite a bit by practices. So having that option to jump into a secure chat is also very helpful for that. But yeah, Podium's taking the right steps, the necessary steps to make sure that your data is secure and you don't have to have that concern.
Thanks, Josh. Another question is, could this be the catalyst for a permanent change in how consumers prefer to do business even once COVID-19 event is over, similar to the onset of Amazon as a better way to shop?
Yeah, I can answer that one. We definitely would say yes to that. With the leading up to COVID-19, even before the global pandemic and social distancing was put in place and some businesses were closed, patients were already wanting a better experience. They were already wanting this convenient and digital experience. So we would definitely say yes. Patients were already wanting it. Now they're demanding it. After COVID-19 ends, patients are still going to want this sort of experience. There was actually a study done by Goldman Sachs. They were studying Starbucks in China. So China is a little bit further along the process of COVID-19 and more stores are kind of opening up than here in the U.S. So they did a study on Starbucks there, and there was one statistic that was really interesting, and it was through sending orders via messaging. Before COVID-19, the percent of orders that were placed via messaging was around 15%. Then during COVID-19, it was up to 80%. And now after COVID-19, it's down to about 50%. So it went from 15 to 80 to 50. So it did dip down a little bit, but it didn't go down all the way to what it was pre-COVID-19. So we believe that's going to translate into a lot of different industries with patients wanting this journey and these different abilities to connect with businesses for sure. Great question.
Another question is, can you implement text functionality to 800 numbers?
Yeah, there are certain carriers where it does get a little tricky on how to connect that to that number. So our customer success team is great. If anyone that signs up with Podium, one of the first things they'll do is they'll check your number for you to see if we can get it connected. Any sort of like voice over IP numbers are harder to get connected via text. If it's a landline, we can typically connect those. And so my recommendation would be, if you have questions like that, when you get signed up for Starter, reach out to our team and we can get you those details for your specific number.
Great, thank you. And what has been the most successful thing that dental practices have done during this time?
I can jump in for that. I think it's tricky because a lot of dental practices are trying to operate. A lot of them that have been forced basically to operate emergency only procedures. And so our payments tool, I think honestly our payments tool has been very, very helpful for a lot of businesses, especially dental, during this time, being able to collect on past due balances, giving people that experience they're looking for without having to come into the office to swipe a card at the terminal. So especially if you're not able to see patients, being able to have a way to help collect on some of those past due balances has been really helpful for a lot of our businesses. Just texting overall, right? Like if I had to, it's hard to say one thing specifically, but when you're not able to come into the office, having a way to message into the practice, text into the practice, has been very almost critical for a lot of our dental practices.
Why wouldn't text to pay permanently replace device interaction, which are clunky plus COVID concerns?
I can jump in again for that. Yeah, I think there's a realistic, like a reality where that could happen in the future. The thing that we found is, so the rates that Podium has for text to pay are probably a little bit higher than what most businesses are paying for transactions that are swipe at terminal. If someone is to call in to your practice or business, so the information is keyed in, our rates are typically better, right? So I think the thing you'll find is that as more and more businesses start going to more of this option of paying online or paying, and rates get more competitive, then yeah, I do think that's a reality. I think the one thing that'll hold people up from switching 100% to like a text to pay option is the rates.
Great.
And that's the rate.
Sorry. Is this data presented for general purchase or specific to this business?
I can jump in here. I think that I understand what the question is. Is this data in the presentation for general consumers, or is it specific to healthcare/dental? The data points, the statistics were general to all consumers, but we have also the stories and the anecdotes were specific to healthcare dental. So we were looking at broader statistics and broader trends, and then we zeroed in on the healthcare industry. I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Haley. And then does this integrate with my practice management system?
Yeah, I can jump in for this. It could. We do have quite a few integrations out there, just depending on the EHR or practice management software that you're using. So my recommendation there would be reach out to the team at Podium, contact us through that information Haley had on that last page, that last slide, and we can tell you yes or no on that fairly easily.
Well, thank you all so much for all your questions, and that is all we have time for today. I want to thank Josh and Haley for their excellent presentation and Podium for sponsoring today's webinar. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars.
Thank you.